Hello everyone, my name is Kirby and I'm the author of these series, also known as Periphery Paint on Instagram. I wanted to take a second and stick my head in to give a big shout out to Shrapnel and say thank you for all the hard work that he puts into these series. I also wanted to take a moment to dedicate this episode to someone very special, my new daughter. Maggie Ryan, welcome to the world and we can't wait to see you grow. Alright, now on to the show.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kirby's Battlemech Compendium. Written and compiled by Periphery et al., I am your orator Shrapnel. Join in the conversation on the MechWarrior 5 Mercenary Facebook page, and check out Periphery Paints on Insta for Battletech eye candy. Entry 4, Stalker, Cotton Eye Joe. Throughout the varied and storied history of the Ionosphere, if you look at any assault mech formation in service of virtually any military power in almost any era, you will find the Stalker. Similar to the Locust, the Stalker is so common, so ubiquitous, that it's become a staple of virtually every faction as long as there have been battlemechs. However, before we dive into the history of the Stalker, we're going to do a little bit of 21st century pop culture history. As one of their famous phrases go,
and now for something completely different.
Folk songs have been a tradition as long as there have been humans. They often play an important role in society's culture, and often linger around for a few generations until being replaced by new, more pertinent music and being lost to the tides of time. Some, however, for whatever reason, transcend the generational gap and become cultural staples for centuries. One such song, for example, is the high-energy, boot-scooting Cotton Eye Joe. Similar to the titular character, nobody really knows who wrote Cotton Eye Joe, where it came from, or really what it's even about. All we know is that in the early 1800s, the song exploded in popularity across the American South and quickly took the nation by storm. By the time the Civil War wreaked havoc upon the United States, the song was so popular it could be heard played on fiddles and banjos in dance halls and around campfires on both sides of the conflict. 100 years later, in the 1950s, the song had become so prolific and so adaptable that many artists had recorded their own version of it, and even come up with their own dance to accompany it, from line dancing to strutting and circle dancing, even a few polka versions. The song remained so ingrained in popular culture that 200 years later, long after any idea of where did he come from or where did he go was lost, Cotton Eye Joe was covered by, of all things, a Swedish techno band called Rednecks. And in a final move to prove the ultimate adaptability and longevity of the song, it topped Billboard charts all over the world. This remix became so popular, it spawned dozens more remixes in every imaginable genre, so that into contemporary times, Cotton Eye Joe remains a staple for party-loving youth, many of whom don't even realise the fun, upbeat club song is actually a folk song that is older than the town they're partying in. So why bring up the 21st century pop music? Well, if Battlemechs can have theme songs, the Stalker's theme song would absolutely be Cotton Eye Joe. When you dive into the history of the Stalker, you find it's incredibly similar to Cotton Eye Joe and its history. Nobody really knows much about the Stalker, who originally made it, or where it came from. And yet, despite this, you can be assured that everyone, everywhere is familiar with the Stalker. We just know that similar to Cotton Eye Joe's explosion in popularity prior to the Civil War, the Stalker became so immensely popular as a workhorse assault mech before the Succession Wars that during the turmoil, it could be found in service with virtually every faction in the Ionosphere. After the war, much like the song, the Stalker's popularity grew so much that many mech manufacturers released their own remixes, so much so that even into contemporary times, there is a variant or spin-off of the Stalker for every genre. What we do know about the Stalker's origin is that it was originally designed in the late 2500s as a multi-role assault mech for the Star League in preparation for Operation Desperately Try Not to Get Your Ass Handed to You by the Taurian Concordat in a Politically Embarrassing Manner Part 4, aka the Reunification Wars. The Star League had a problem, and the problem was the periphery. The Star League was supposed to be the biggest, most powerful force in the galaxy, and often used this notion as a motivator to, shall we say, persuade smaller powers to join them, or else. While this tactic was generally somewhat successful, naturally some factions did not want to be subjugated by force and resisted. Some of these powers, namely the Taurian Concordat, looked at the SLDF and its tendency to buy anything with guns in mass quantities and figure out if it actually worked later, and learned that by using highly advanced strategies such as making sure a weapon is tactically viable against your enemy and worked properly before devoting huge amounts of resources to buying and operating it, they could be remarkably successful at enforcing their official state motto of "Get off my lawn" upon the SLDF time and time again. The Taurians were so good at it, in fact, that it quickly began to threaten the SLDF's reputation as an undefeatable military power, and the SLDF seemingly had to conquer the Taurian Concordat and the other major periphery states, almost as a matter of principle more than anything else. But before the SLDF could do that, they knew they had to do what the SLDF truly did best: spend exorbitant amounts of taxpayer money to buy new guns from anyone who made them. It was during this period of mass arms procurement that the Stalker was born. We know a manufacturing firm known as Triad Industries originally released the Stalker with little fanfare, and the best guesses speculate that the original factory was on the fertile world of CAF. While pretty much all other information about Triad Industries was lost during the Succession Wars, we do know that their original marketing tagline was, "It's not flashy, it's not cutting edge, it just keeps coming." They weren't wrong either. To use another 21st century colloquialism, Triad Industries understood the assignment in an age when many manufacturers were rushing to put out lukewarm products simply because they knew the SLDF would buy them, such as the Charger or Cicada. Triad seemed to want to create something that appealed to all buyers, including those who had the annoying tendency to think about what they were buying before cutting a check. Even though relatively advanced technologies such as XL engines and endosteel were available, Triad Industries decided to forego them, using basic yet proven materials and a simple layout, even foregoing arm actuators for seemingly no other reason than to reduce the number of parts to maintain and things to go wrong. A simple yet powerful weapons loadout comprised of large and medium lasers and an assortment of both long and short range missiles make the Stalker capable of engaging an enemy at any range and operate equally well as a brawler, a defender, fire support, or a multitude of other roles. While some other contemporary units carry more weapons, are faster, or were built with advanced technologies, few if any could match the unique blend of simplicity and ruggedness meant that the Stalker could absorb an incredible amount of punishment and remain combat effective. And most of all, the Stalker came at such a low price that smart commanders could not afford to ignore it. Few commanders did ignore the Stalker, and it sold by the thousands. The Stalker became so popular so quickly that it's rumoured many MechWarriors lost fear of the Stalker due to constant exposure. Until they had to fight one, that is. Because the Star League allowed for the sale of arms to all its member states, the Stalker quickly became the de facto workhorse assault mech for nearly every power in the Star League and then some. Over the course of its service with the Star League, the Stalker became so popular that a common variant on older Stalkers whose knee and hip actuators were wearing out was to simply remove some of the weapons and turn the mech into a 75 or 70-ton heavy mech instead of an 85-ton assault. It's worth noting, though, that this was occurring while the Stalker was still in active production by Triad Industries, meaning that the Stalker was so wildly popular and rugged that commanders would rather keep repairing the decades, if not centuries-old machines they had, rather than buy a new one. That's a pretty impressive endorsement for a Battlemech in an age when most SLDF commanders issued purchase orders seemingly for no other reason than idle boredom. While we don't know exactly what happened to Triad Industries, if we agree with the best guesses of the Battletech community and agree that Triad Industries was based on CAF, we can come to some grim conclusions. CAF was a well-known world, a tropical rainforest world with vast mineral wealth and fertile land capable of sustaining a large population. This made it an ideal spot for all sorts of heavy industry, and despite being home to huge reptiles known locally as dinosaurs, CAF became a manufacturing and research hotspot. With the CAF industry of technology doing much of the research into creating the Mackie, the very first Battlemech, This status as a jewel in the crown of the Terran hegemony's military-industrial complex meant that CAF was an early and immediate target for everyone very early on in the collapse of the Star League and into the Succession Wars. In large part, it's pretty safe to assume that since the Stalker formed the cornerstone of everyone's militaries, everyone wanted to control the factories who produced the Stalker and the spare parts to keep them running. By 2787, 5 major battles had been fought on CAF, with 3 great houses competing in bloodshed for control of the world. By 2930, nearly the entire world was a smoking, irradiated ruin. Virtually every building on the planet had been vaporized by atomic bombs, and all of the planet's continents, save for the smallest and least inhabited, had become heavily irradiated and nearly uninhabitable. In my opinion, this speaks heavily to the massive devastation of the Succession Wars as a whole, and why so much technology was lost. In an attempt to control the flow of weapons, the great houses were willing to so thoroughly annihilate a thriving world and the people who lived there, to destroy it so completely that we don't even know the most basic things about the companies that conducted business there. The great houses literally nuked a planet so badly that they almost erased it, not just from the history books, but popular lexicon as well. Seriously, take a moment to consider the sheer amount of destructive effort that it must take to reach a point where a predominant arms manufacturer employing tens of thousands of people is so badly annihilated that nobody is even sure where the factory was or what else besides the Stalker they made. Stop and ask yourself, how many nuclear weapons and how many people would have to die in order for humanity to reach a point that the only thing we knew about Disney was their mascot was a mouse and nothing else? That is probably the best example I have ever heard to put into perspective just how catastrophic the Succession Wars were for humanity. As long as we're doing thought exercises on the destructive nature of the Succession Wars, we must also consider that Triad Industries was the sole producer of one of the most popular assault battlemechs for hundreds of years. There is no reason they should not have profited enough to be able to afford to rebuild, or at the very least, survive the Succession Wars by licensing the Stalker design and letting others build it, while they used the royalties to keep the doors open and begin the process of rebuilding. They didn't, however. And to me, that indicates that CAF, and Triad Industries, by extension, was so heavily devastated that there simply wasn't anyone left to man the phone or sign license documents. Nobody left to enforce trademark and patents. Nobody left alive to begin the process of rebuilding. And the facilities so thoroughly destroyed that no records or documentation remained to give us any insight on who conceived the Stalker or what their thought process was. The Stalker's intrinsically simple construction and ubiquitous nature must have made it simple to continue manufacturing despite the technology loss of the Succession Wars, because in very short order, after the destruction of Triad Industries, both Defiance Mech Works and Irian Technologies began production of the Stalker. Considering that Defiance is a state-run Lyran weapons manufacturer, and Irian is such a large part of the Free Worlds League military-industrial complex, they govern their own worlds where they manufacture weapons. I think it's a fairly safe assumption that both conducted extensive black ops to secure the blueprints from Triad before the chaos in order to kickstart production. Industrial sabotage is nothing new to the Innisphere, and there is no reason both House Steiner and House Marek would not jump at the chance to produce their own Stalkers rather than buy them from someone else. They may have viewed it as a necessity, seeing as their armies depended on the Stalker, and they knew without Triad there would be nobody left to make spare parts and new units. Due to these lightly clandestine efforts following the destruction of Triad Industries and the Succession War, many others also began production of the Stalker. And just like Cotton Eye Joe, its popularity surged once again for new generations. The Stalker became a platform for all genres with a host of variants, becoming an early subject to be updated with long-lost Star League technology and continually updated through the Dark Ages and Jihad into contemporary times. Fun remixes such as the STK-7D variant turned the Stalker into an effective disco party PPC carrier, and the STK-8S uses the Stalker's inherent stability to create a hard-hitting, heavy metal cover with a wicked heavy Gauss rifle, one of the most powerful Battlemech scale weapons in existence. Even into the most modern of times, variants like the STK-9F give the Stalker a cutting-edge electronica remix, revamping it with high-tech active probes and targeting computers, bringing the venerable Stalker into the modern age with no sign its popularity will ever wane. In the memorable lyrics of Cotton Eye Joe, nobody knows where Triad and the Stalker came from, or where did they go. And in similar fashion, the Stalker is a testament to the longevity of good, no-nonsense design and an understanding of the task at hand. While the tale of Triad Industries is undoubtedly one of suffering and the abject devastation of thermonuclear war, their legacy is cemented throughout all of history in the form of one of the all-round most capable, durable and long-lasting assault mechs in existence. Just like the song, there is no reason to doubt the Stalker will be around for many more generations to come as well. Hello everyone, Shrapnel here. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of Kirby's Battlemech Compendium. The Stalker is a fantastic mech. It is worth every BV value you put on it. The 7D is a masterpiece of ERPPCs and targeting computers, and if anything comes close, medium lasers is going to kill everything. I've never played with the later era ones, but I cannot wait to get my teeth stuck into it. Even the earlier variants with the LRMs, the SRMs and lasers, it's still just a walking slab of armour, and it's so hard to kill. I love this mech and I hope you do too. If you do, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your favourite variant. Let me know the best stories you have of them, because I know you've got them. Everyone has a Stalker story, whether you've fought against it or you've been fighting with it. Again, thank you for listening, and if you liked this series, leave a comment below and let us know what mech you want us to cover next, as well as what other songs you think would be a good theme song for other mechs. We want to hear from everyone, and we always reply to everyone. I've been Shrapnel. This was written by Kirby of Periphery Paint. Go and check him out on Insta. And until next time everyone, take care.